Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Black Rum podcast. I'm Ryan from Coldsploitation.com, and I'm joined with my co-host Mark.
How's it going?
Doing pretty well. We took a little break, unintentional, so sorry that we took a little bit longer than expected. We're back, and
you threw everything off, because you know what we missed?
Thor?
No, who cares? More important. Our 7-year anniversary.
7 or 8? Is it 8? Are we on to
No, 7
8th?
years.
Oh, we're 7?
So we're on to year 8 now.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
2015 is when we started this magical trip.
Great time. It's funny because we generally don't do the anniversary as anything big. We do it by episode count. It's who cares about the years?
Well, if somebody didn't decide to have children and all this other nonsense, we'd be on episode 500 by now.
That's right, yeah. 500 episodes for people to go back and pick and choose what they want to listen to. It's no, you can't.
You listen to them all.
Well, there's a driving theme throughout it, so you can't just go and listen to them out of order. Subtly, there's a storyline happening here that we have throughout each episode.
More planned out than the Marvel film franchise.
8 years in the making. So what do we got today for our episode, our return back? And I guess also, why do we have it today?
Well, you wanted to do it.
Yeah, I thought it would be interesting to do.
This was a you pick.
Yeah, I kind of just threw it out there. We're talking about Rosemary's Baby today. Not the 2017 made-for-TV remake that was super weird.
Was that on NBC or something?
Yeah, shown on NBC. Cross between Rosemary's Baby and The Omen. It didn't really get the Rosemary's Baby homage done very well, but it did something. And in 2017 too, the proliferation of movies like Rosemary's Baby is quite crazy. I mean, look around. There's now a movie about a demon baby. It's not something new anymore. So to have a TV movie based on the original is kind of weird. Just make your own, right? Why do you have to copy pretty much exactly what the original did? Because everybody else has copied it and called it something else. As we were talking about before we got on the show, Donald Pleasance, you had mistaken that he was actually in Rosemary's Baby. He's not. But he does have his own Rosemary's Baby type film from 1975 called The Monster or The Devil Within Her. Ultimately, basically just a complete rip-off of Rosemary's Baby for the 1970s. So it had been done quite a bit. And in the 70s, we had a huge, huge proliferation of movies about babies, about
Satan,
birth, about Satan, or all of the above, right? Some of them, like The Omen, get them both in. So The Omen kind of takes both the pregnancy and the birth of the kid and its growth throughout the years. Whereas Rosemary's Baby is very much focused on the pregnancy itself, the act of getting pregnant, and then the horrors of being a woman pregnant and things going wrong during that pregnancy. So it is an interesting movie because we're in the midst of sort of an unprecedented political timeline, I will say, where we are seeing rights that have been available for 50 years overturned, and we are at a point where some states have more limitations than the characters in Rosemary's Baby from 1968, or in the film's universe, the 65, 66 time frame. So we wanted to do Rosemary's Baby because we wanted to showcase the ultimate pro-abortion film. what other what bigger reason do you need for an abortion than you're having the devil's child? So regardless of politics, we're going to talk about Rosemary's Baby in the context of its time frame, the context of now, what it brought to the table for movies that came after it, which, you know, basically spawned a whole number of Demon Baby movies. And we're going to talk about Roman Polanski a little bit. As you know, we try to separate the filmmaker and from the movie, like the actual personal life of the filmmaker from the movie. We did that with Jeepers Creepers and Victor Salva, and we're going to do it again with Roman Polanski, although we will talk about context a little bit because it is important in the scope of this movie. So, with that said, had you ever seen Rosemary's Baby before?
Yeah, I've seen it like probably like 2 times, but it's been more than a decade since the last time I've seen it. Not something that you would find on your dinner in a movie.
No,
or even TCM never really played it, I don't think.
I have seen it on AMC a couple times during like the Halloween movie fest. So occasionally they'll play Rosemary's Baby. And you know what? It kind of makes sense. It's not really a movie that they really even need to censor that much. There is a couple scenes, nude scenes with Mia Farrow. But other than that, it's not even really a censored movie. So the editors have an easy job. But you're right. I've not, it's just not common on TV. And I had seen it and bits and pieces of it here and there, but I don't know if I've ever really sat down and watched the whole thing. So it was a fun time to go ahead and watch the whole 2 hours and 15 minutes for this episode.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I mainly just saw it in like college.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like one of the films like back in college when I had the time to, in between classes, sit down and either be like, I'm going to watch this anime this week or watch this movie. I sat down, checked out. But that's been a decade plus now, so it's been, like I said, quite a while.
One thing that, even if you haven't seen the movie, obviously now since 1968, it's referenced a whole lot. But even more than just the references to the plot itself, the poster art is pretty iconic at this point. It's kind of extended down.
Which is funny, because it's not even that good.
I think it's kind of an interesting poster. You have
it's generic 60s Rosemary's Baby, and it's got a little baby carriage and silhouette Mia Farrow.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting because you have, not only do you have the very weird scenario of, hey, this fucking decidedly British looking baby carriage is sitting on abandoned on some rocks. Like, who goes to the beach and just leaves their baby carriage up there on the shoreline? It could be like I could see the Fog almost being like and on the name of this poster, like the Fog, but with a baby, because that's kind of like what it looks like.
Hold on, John Carpenter's The Fog.
Yeah, sorry, John Carpenter's The Fog. That's right. See those through lines from the other episodes. If you hadn't listened, you wouldn't know. But truthfully, what I do like about this poster is that you have the baby in the foreground, and then you have Rosemary, kind of like translucently, ghostly, waif-like in the background. And so the baby's taking precedence. It's in the foreground. It is the focal point. And that is kind of what you get from Rosemary's Baby. I think it's a really good artistic expression of the metaphor that we get in the movie, where the baby takes precedence. Rosemary's kind of sidled off, even though she's our main protagonist, and we do see most of the movie through her eyes. I like the artwork. And that like nice seafoam green too. It's It's a delicate color. I like it. The other thing that I think that we've kind of spiraled down through pop culture is when you think of Mia Farrow, do you think of her with the short hair?
Yes.
Same for me. I when I was watching like the beginning of it, I was like, holy crap, Mia Farrow has different hair in the beginning of this movie. So I didn't even realize that, you know, she has like the pixie cut at the beginning of the movie, and then goes and chops off all her hair there as she gets pregnant. And I do, and we'll talk about this probably more into the show, but I do love how literally everyone tells her like, my God, your hair is awful.
No, like, I know, it's great. It's that great staple of like, you know, from prior times, like where the man's just like, what the fuck did you do?
Yeah, like John Cassavetes comes in, he's like, what is that?
Don't you like it? It's the, what's it called? Like the chic le blanc, or, you know, I can't remember. He's just like, well, honey, I think for one, your hair looks hideous. Yeah,
but it's not only him. It's like, you know, like everybody else is like, you look awful. Like, and then at one point, John Cassavetes literally says, she's like, I feel, and she says like something like, I look terrible. Like, and she's referring to herself as like, I'm feeling sick right now. And he's like, you know what's wrong? That was the worst decision you've ever made in your life. You got that haircut. That was, you know what? That's ultimately the worst decision. That's why you think you look terrible, because it's the hair. It's like not mincing words there. And I love that. Like that keeps coming up in the movie. What do you think? Do you like that chic, French Nouveau look that she's got going on, or do you wish she kept the pixie bob there?
I like the pixie haircut because they're like 60s like bob cut with the curls on the side. Look, you know. Ugh.
Yeah, I like the pixie cut too. I do think it's that they're somewhat right when they say, wow, it's not a fitting form for her, but it is funny because that haircut. It's kind of like Single White Female, which had like the very hideous red shag cut in that movie. I don't know. Have you ever seen Single White Female?
Do you think I've seen Single White Female?
I don't know.
No, I have not.
No. Well, it really perpetuated in the 90s, I think, like early 90s. Very hideous red-haired, like very dyed out of the box red hair, shag cut.
Oh, look at that! Look at Bridget Fonda. Jesus
right,
Christ.
you see it, and that's kind of like what I'm getting from Rosemary's Baby too.
But hers is at least like a natural, like strawberry, like blonde. You know, like it's red and blonde. You know, Bridget Fonda's got the devil. Devil's touch, ginger cut.
I don't know. It's not working for either of them, I feel like, but did you know that Mia Farrow has a sister?
No.
Tisa Farrow. Yeah.
Tisa.
Yep, she's shown up in a. Oh my goodness, you got the gas today. Yeah, she's been in a few horror movies. She's in Zombie.
Oh.
If you remember back when we did that movie.
We never did Zombie.
We did Zombie?
No, we haven't.
I feel like we did.
We have not.
Did we just watch it then? I feel like we did Zombie. But maybe I think we did it. I think you're mistaken. But she was in Zombie. She was in a TV movie that I just watched.
Oh wait, no, you're right. We did.
Yeah,
Zombie.
we did Zombie.
Yeah, for reanimated.
Yeah. I thought you're mistaken there, Mister.
Is that the one where? Well, I got pulled up now. Is that the one where they were like on like the fucking island, like Caribbean islands?
Yeah.
Yeah. No wonder why I forgot about it.
And she's in a movie, The Initiation of Sarah, that I watched the other day. It's a TV movie. That's basically a Carrie clone. So yeah, that's Mia Farrow's sister. All right, so let's take a break before we get into the movie itself. we'll talk about the beer that we have on the show today. You picked up a beer for us. Well, why don't you tell us about it?
Why don't you tell us about it?
All right, I'll tell you about it. It is from Scantic River Brewery, which we've never had before. I have seen this brewery before. I remember seeing the cans for this. I think it was like posted online once or twice that they were in stock. So I have seen this. Scantic River, I've never actually tried. I believe that's from like the Massachusetts, Connecticut area. Am I right?
Hamden, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So it'd be up to you to decipher, mister. I went to Massachusetts school.
I don't know Hampton, but I do know that they're literally like the Scantic River. It runs between Massachusetts and Connecticut. So that's where that comes from. But we've never had them on the show.
Let's see where it is. It's in Hampden County.
Okay.
Has a population of 4,966.
On the smaller side.
And it's East Mass, like Central Massachusetts, leaning more towards west.
Which makes sense. I don't know the west as well. So.
And it's on the border, so yeah, it'd be on like the Connecticut border.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, we've never had this one before. Doesn't get around here too much. However, if you take a look at the can for the one that we have, it has a nice little creamsicle pop on it because it's a raspberry Streamsicle IPA.
Now, the whole reason I picked it up too, because I had a dyslexic moment, legit dyslexic moment. When I looked at it, I thought it said, raspberry Dreamsicle. Great, got me there. But I thought the brewery said Satanic River.
Can you imagine the Satanic River?
I thought it said Satanic River, so I was like, "Oh, cool!
It's perfect.
That'll fit perfectly."
Right in the theme.
With the theme of what we're doing for this week. And as after I bought it and got into the car, I see it says Scantic. I'm like, oh, like, oh, what have I done? I'm like,
well,
I like having seniors. I'm not even 33. I'm having senior moments.
Yeah, it works. It worked out okay. It's right on par with what we would normally do. And we weren't able to get the obvious tie-in for this show, which would be Two Roads, Rosemary's Baby pumpkin ale.
Somebody didn't want to do it in the fall.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe at some point we'll pick up that one. I'm not a pumpkin beer fan, so to me, in general, that wouldn't be a fun one. But
doesn't matter. It's about the poetry of it all.
I know. I would do it. I would do it if it fit, but we were just not able to do it, and that's not out yet. It'll be out soon, I'm sure. It'll probably be out in like 2 weeks, but it's not out yet. So
we're very close to fall beer time. It's
sure.
Almost August.
Yep, we are. So yeah, this is a India Pale Ale with vanilla, raspberry, and lactose, which puts it pretty squarely in the milkshake IPA category. Milkshakes. The lactose is what really does it there. If not, this is not a beer for you if you're lactose intolerant. You'll be running to the bathroom. So it's unfiltered, hazy, and has lactose.
Have you poured it out? Is it like a nice raspberry purple?
I did pour it out. No, it's actually more golden than pinkish.
Well, that's sad.
Yeah. This is a thing that I wanted to bring up. I watch this guy on TikTok sometimes, the beer connoisseur. And I learned a fun tip the other day. When you're drinking IPAs, and if you got time and you're not just drinking it out of a can, you want to pour it out. The correct way to pour it out is not to do the tilt. You do the tilt like for the first, like little bit, and then you do a hard pour, and you let the bubbles rise to the top, and you let that settle until you pour the rest in. And it's going to take a little bit of time for you to be able to pour the whole thing in. But what that does is it gets rid of the excess CO2, so that doesn't go in your stomach. You don't want that to go in your stomach because you're going to get more full.
What? You know what this man is called?
What?
We've talked about it. He's not a sommelier. He's a cicerone.
That's correct. A cicerone. Yeah, but I thought that was an interesting tidbit because I didn't know that. I always pour mine with a perfect tilt, so you don't get a huge amount of head. But what they're saying is that that's actually not releasing all the CO2.
Well, you know what? I'm Dusty Rhodes. I'm the American dream. I'm just a common man. I drink it from the
straight from the can.
Straight from the fucking can. I can't be bothered washing out glasses every time I drink a beer. Sorry,
You got to get yourself one of those
with proper glasses. Like, I'm drinking Armageddon Grey Voss today. It's got to go in the tulip. No, just
you got to get yourself one of those like iron canteens from the spaghetti western. Like the ones that the flagons, but it's got real iron in it so that everything comes out tasting real metally. I don't know. This beer tastes the same as the other one. I don't know. It just tastes like metal.
Your trusty Vault 13 canteen from New Vegas.
Yeah.
You like how that pops up every time? Like you're just like walking around the Mojave and you see like you take a sip from your trusty canteen.
All right, but back to Scantic River Brewery. So it's Raspberry Streamsicle. I'm gonna say it's pretty good. It's not up to par of some of the other milkshake IPAs that I've had.
It's no Southern Tier. Southern Tier milkshakes IPAs we've had.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's good, but it's good, but it's not. It's not mind blowing. Mm-hmm. Like it's the raspberry. Like what I've kind of noticed. Now I'm on number 2. It's kind of hit or miss.
Yep.
Sometimes like you get that nice tart, bitter sweetness, and sometimes it's kind of meh there. It definitely does have like a creamy lactose milkshake taste to it, especially for an 8% double IPA. It's very smooth, goes down pretty good. It definitely does have a sweetness to it. Very kind of, I would say, sugary almost,
well, I mean, lactose is milk sugar, so...
No, I know, but I mean, like, just like when you drink it, it's kind of like the most prominent taste you get out of it is the sugar. It's good. I would definitely try the orange one, but it's definitely out of like all the like the kind of like creamsicle milkshake IPAs. I would say it's middle of the road, but it's still a very good drink. Very good beer.
Yeah, I would probably say the same. I think that the raspberry flavor does come out occasionally. Sometimes it does come off as like almost like overly sweet. Maybe that's partially because of the lactose. That's making it a little bit too sweet at times. But the raspberry flavor does come out at times. What I will say doesn't really come out that much is vanilla. I don't get a whole lot of vanilla. I get a lot of raspberry, and I get a lot of that sugar sweetness and the milk shakiness.
I get a wheatiness too, kind of like a wheat beer. I
don't
know about you, but yeah, I kind of get like
a little bit. What I don't get is vanilla, and I think that the vanilla would first of all really make this stand out a little bit, because it would emphasize the creamsicle quality. Because you really do think with creamsicle, the fruit and the vanilla. But it would also, I think too, like we've had a lot of beers that have what you would call vanilla, but it's really like the marshmallow flavor. And I feel like this would pair well with like a marshmallow, very heavy marshmallow vanilla flavor. So I think it's good. I think it can.
The lactose is really carrying that vanilla taste to it.
Yeah, and
it's which is just mainly pure sugar. It's not like an actual vanilla taste.
And I also think that it is somewhat on the thin side, even though it does have some creaminess to it. I think it's still on the thin side from what I've had from milkshake IPAs. I would have liked to see a little bit more body to it. Another thing too is if you're not a fan of what I would call like more like an artificial raspberry flavor, kind of like a Torani syrup. If you're not a big fan of that, then you probably are not going to like the raspberry flavor in here because it's very kind of syrupy. Doesn't really taste like a real raspberry flavor. But with that said, I think it's, like you said, fairly middle of the road. It's not bad. Definitely drinkable. But it's not the best milkshake IPA I've had. And I've definitely had better creamsicle style IPAs than this one. But still worth the check out. And I would be interested in trying that orange one as well. I think that sounds interesting. As long as it doesn't go really hard towards the orange side, I think it would be a pretty good beer. I just would like to see a little bit more vanilla present here. But good pick. Good, interesting. Good to try new breweries. Scantic River Brewery I've never had before, and I've just vaguely heard of them in passing. So,
yeah, they had the orange creamsicle, and the honey beer, which is like a 9%.
Oof, the honey beer. See, that's one that's gonna. I'm glad we didn't start out with them with the honey beers because
it's probably more mead like than because there's like a 9%.
Yeah, those aren't like honey beers are not my thing too much. I will try them. I'm just not a huge fan. But all right, so Rosemary's Baby. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the ultimate pro-abortion agenda.
The film that as they were deciding Roe v. Wade, that they're like, yeah, let's do it.
They said, you know what? We were going to go against this, but what happens if you do have a demon baby?
If you're raped by Satan and you have,
what do you do in that scenario? And of course, at least in this movie, doctors scoff at ectopic pregnancy. Ectopic pregnancy? What?
That's one of the funniest parts of this film.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, you've been reading again, haven't you?
Women reading and things about medicine.
Because as Rosemary's worried that she might be having an ectopic pregnancy, the doctor that she seems like, you've been reading, haven't you? And she's like, yes. He's like, no more reading. That just creates silly ideas for you. Run along now.
Yeah. She basically gives her a pat on the head and like a cup of hot tea and says it's not an ectopic pregnancy, and then like scoffs into his office.
And lighting his pipe up like, oh, listen, like, you're as Ryan perfectly said, a waif woman. Now you're becoming gaunt. Normal.
Yeah, completely normal. Are you losing lots of weight with your pregnancy? Completely normal. I don't know what you're talking about.
You'll gain it, and that's how I like that too. Like they reassure, like, don't worry, you'll be fat in no time. Like,
yeah,
they're like, you'll be putting on weight in no time, and you know what? Probably more than you should.
I really like that doctor because he is like the epitome of like the doctor that just doesn't listen. He's like, I know everything. Don't worry, I'm a doctor. I went to school. I know everything, so you don't need to think about it at all. You just like don't mind your pretty little head. I'll tell you everything you need to know, and that's it. You just ignore everything else. Dr. Saperstein. Ralph Bellamy plays him well, and that's kind of how I imagine like what doctors used to be like. And I mean, even some old school doctors are too.
He very looks like Freud.
Yeah, he does. Like, yeah. But I imagine that's kind of like what the old school doctors were like. You know, like. Or at least like even if you think back to like in the 1800s, like, doctor, I really don't feel well. And like, you know what we're gonna get? We're gonna get some leeches to suck that evil poison out. Okay, we're gonna suck that bad feeling that you've got right out.
Get the demons out of your blood.
Wait, but doctor, I think this is like truly like an illness or something. I think I ate something poor. Nope. The leeches will take it out. Don't worry. That's what I feel like. Dr. Saperstein does in this movie. So Rosemary's Baby, which I found interesting, coming in and like having seen here and there and stuff like that, and knowing about it from pop culture, is that I was expecting a little bit more of the actual baby element, But for a long running time of the movie, there's no pregnancy. There is just the uncomfortable feeling that the Woodhouses have moved into an apartment complex where nosy neighbors abound. And the most nosiest neighbor are the Castavets that live next door, who basically will not let either of them have like a moment of peace in their house.
Which is a missed opportunity. You got John Cassavetes as Guy Woodhouse, and like you have Cassavetes. And
I love that too. It was just like, was that a coincidence? Did they write it that way? Did they have John Cassavetes here, and then they were like, well, Castavet, we could write that in so that it's an anagram. Let's try that.
No. Castavet, it looks like, is actually in the novel. But I mean,
okay.
It's kind of like
serendipity.
That's the very definition of serendipity right there. Like,
I thought that as well. And not only that, and this is not serendipity. Well, actually, I don't know. Is it serendipity? We've got Roman Polanski directing, and Roman Castavet is the main head of the coven. Is that in the book too?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. The guy's name is Roman Castavet.
Look at that.
So.
Look at all the serendipity. It was meant to be. Satan himself was working on this movie.
No. Hold on. Stop. You've seen Dogma. It's Selma Hayek showing her boobs. She's like dancing around a candy girl. Candy girl, you're my world. Who's that? Oh, that's serendipity. You're all so sweet, my special treat. Get ready for Clerks 3, everybody.
Oh yeah. So, what did you think about the opening of the movie in like the first 45 minutes, where we really, we see?
It's an hour. It's an hour long. I tracked it.
Oh,
it takes an hour. Yeah, to get to I'm pregnant, because I was reading the Wikipedia, and it's like, this is very detailed, and then it's like, oh, it's like only takes an hour to fucking. I think it's fine, actually, because I think because of the time the film was made, and kind of like the philosophy of filmmaking of the 60s and 70s, that slow burn works really well, because you get to see our protagonist, we get to see the overall issues. There's nothing like that they show that's trying to be way too grand or ostentatious. It's all just slow, like a play. It's slowly working up to something.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
and I think it works really well. Going from watching them buy apartment hunting, and how they're in through them finding the apartment, how Guy and Rosemary's relationship is. And then when they get into the apartment, adjusting to it, and how they are, and then as we meet the Castavets, how that impacts them, and we go from Guy, John Cassavetes being like, I don't want to fucking deal with these old crones, because if we see him once, then we're stuck with them. And then after that, he's like, I want to fucking meet this guy every day. He's so great.
I want to hear all his stories.
Yeah, seeing that transition of Rosemary, still being skeptical and not really trusting of them, and watching, Guy kind of descend into the madness.
Yeah,
I think it is interesting. It's a little too. I think the film would have worked more well if we didn't see Guy transform overnight. I get it, because he's technically possessed, and accepts a deal with the devil. But I think if it was more, if we got to see his personality kind of slowly turn instead of kind of on a dime, it'd be more interesting, because after we get to kind of see him kind of oh no, I like them, they're really cool and stuff, and then constantly defending them, obviously he's not an honest actor, and that's only a half hour into the film.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like the slow burn, kind of seeing how their relationship develops with the Castavets, and who the Castavets are, and the apartment, and all that. It's, I think it does work well. Because it's also really quiet, too. Like, soundtrack's very muted. It only comes up in, like, certain parts of the film. It's very just, like I said, like a play. It's very just, like, shot in certain scenes, and it's very static, and you get to kind of see just, like, everything kind of unfold.
Yeah, I think that's, it really helps that all of the characters are really well acted. The woman who plays Minnie, Ruth Gordon, she's really good at showing, the very annoying, nosy neighbor trope that she brings to the table. And not only that, but like, it's great how she constantly works her way into the fabric of all of the dialogue, or even just barges her way into the Woodhouse's apartment, like at any time. It's done really well, and I think like one thing that I really like about Rosemary's Baby is, like you said, it takes about an hour for the baby to actually be like, we have a baby, but along the way, we are subjected to these really weird instances of just encounters that just seem odd. And how Polanski structures it is like, it's almost like a more of like a dramatic film for, the first hour and a half, where we're suspecting, things are weird. But if you were watching it and not necessarily expecting a horror movie, you probably would be going along with it like, what's going on? Like, why?
I would disagree to that point, because when we get to meet, what was their name? Terry in the laundry room, and how, like, the cast of vets are taking me in, and they've given me this Lucky Charm that has tannis through. And then the next scene we see, she's throwing herself off the fucking building. She's like bleeding, and the cops the cops are very much like, stand back, stand back. Another hysterical woman has thrown herself from the fucking roof. And then true, yeah. And then when you see the cast of vets roll up, they look like a pimp in a fucking like, yeah. He's got like half a pimp suit on. And she's like, Doug, like, what's going on? What's going on? I'm Roman Custavet. I know her. Yep, that's her handwriting. Yep. I don't think she'd kill herself, but it looks like she did. Poor woman.
Yeah.
Poor woman had the vapors. Shame.
Yeah, I do. You're right. That one scene right there is definitely like setting in motion the oddness of their interactions. And I do like that scene too, because you're right. Like, the New York City cops are just like, they don't believe she's dead. They don't believe she's dead. They don't believe she jumped. Okay, hold on a second. Let me pull you over here. Look at that. Look at the blood splattered all over the place. Did she jump? Is that her? Yep, that's her. Okay, that's what I thought. They're like so brash and surly about everything.
They're like, is that her handwriting? Yep. Well, it looks like she jumped out of herself. No, like she must have been doing laundry or something. Whatever.
She must have been cleaning the windows and slipped out or something.
At 10 o'clock at night, they're like, yeah, that's, they're like, listen, we have cases to close. Yeah, if you want to say that she was cleaning a fucking window and hopped out, sure, fine. We got better things to do. It's
yeah, I do. That is a great scene where, like,
my only question with that is, though, so like it's. Why would as we learn throughout the film with the cast of vets, why would the cast of vets be dealing with Terry?
Well, maybe they were trying to do the same thing. And
I know, but I mean, she was a druggie. We learned she was on dope.
Maybe they're easier to convert that way.
I know, but so were they trying to convert her to the coven, or were they trying to get her pregnant?
I think they were trying to get her pregnant. It's why they would give her the tannis root as well, which seems to be like some sort of almost like a pheromone or something like that, like kind of like cinnamon.
But I mean, but
it's a pheromone to get the demon's dick going,
But I mean, it seems weird because if they say like, oh, you have to be a Catholic, but I think Mia Farrow works so well. Especially in the story, like Rosemary does, because she is like a pure, kind of pure and innocent. Like, yeah, her, in modern day like slashers, like, you know, she's not a virgin, but she is like she's not having sex with John Cassavetes out of wedlock. They're married, you know, and they do want a family. So she does have like a kind of a pureness to her. So it's kind of weird that, you know, Terry being the junkie, you know, dope addict that's been taken in, like so what was the purpose of them like trying to have her like in? Is it just like that she's a Catholic and they can use her to have Satan fuck her and have her baby, or is it like were they trying to convert her? It's not. She's not around long enough for that, you know, to really matter. But it's kind of like a thought I had, like wait. Like, so why were they having Terry, you know, kind of stick around if, you know, they were gonna use, you know, Rosemary to be the vessel for Satan?
Maybe they had originally intended to have her, and then they were like, oh, wow, Rosemary's perfect for this. We've got like a whole couple. We can just convince them instead. And they were like, Terry, you got to go. You've outlived your welcome. Bye. See you later. I don't know. It is interesting, like you said, that the film doesn't really go into much detail about it. Was she getting too close? Was she infertile? You know, was the film? It kind of would have been interesting to explore the fact that like they found out, oh, she wanted to have kids, but she couldn't, or something like that in the movie. Because then I would have given it even more of like a context of like fertility and things that like they are obsessed with, like in the Coven. I think that would have been an interesting thing to find out. But you're right, that doesn't really go very far. It probably is something that is left out from the book.
I say which that is brought up in the film, Rosemary's fertility, as she talks about all the nieces and nephews she has, and she quite blankly says like, "Oh, we're quite fertile." So, you know, they're like, "Oh." But if you're Satan, the Lord of the Underworld, whether that womb's fucking dust or not, you should be able to, you know, if your seed's that potent, come on.
Yep.
Come on, Satan.
That's true.
Sounds like he's not an alpha. It sounds like he's just Satan, not an alpha, not Chad. He's not Jesus. Jesus is Chad.
I don't know. He looks like a pretty good lover in that scene. Probably what spawned like all the kinds of like furry,
just nice rapey
obsessions.
Missionary, just like.
I don't know. Like there's like the whole writhing hands on the hips thing. Like he looks like a pretty good lover. I don't know.
Speaking of lover, how'd you like that scene when we talked about it off air? How'd you like that whole scene when they move into the apartment and then they're sitting in the dark eating like dinner on the floor, and then Rosemary's just like, "Let's make love."
What's sexier than that?
And then you get 3 minutes of them slowly taking their clothes off, both of them at the same time, and just like Cassavetes like struggling with his pants.
Cassavetes is a very flexible man. He's like doing, you know, yoga on the floor trying to get his pants off.
Trying to get like, you know.
I don't know. I guess it's meant to show the intimacy of the couple. You know, that they're on the same wavelength. That this is something that they have wanted to, you know, to get an apartment together, but it is very awkward. It does seem like it was written by a man, where it's just like all of a sudden the woman is just like, let's have sex. Let's do it. You know, you're just
fucking temptress.
You're just eating so sexily over there. I can't even contain myself. I must take my pants off right now. It's just, but it just comes out of nowhere.
But in a nice, classy way. Like I said, she's like, let's not.
Yeah.
She didn't say like, let's fuck. She's like, let's make love.
Actually, you know, and Sarah, my wife said too, because she overheard some of the movie. She wasn't watching it, but she overheard. She was like, oh, Rosemary has like that sultry voice going on, because there's that one scene where, you know, they're getting ready. They're like having the whole dinner sequence of like, you know, it's going to be a special night, and we're gonna, you know, it's the time of the month that's perfect for us to have this this coitus, and they're having the mousse that is brought over from the Cassavetes, and she puts it into her napkin because she says it tastes funny.
Chalky.
Yeah, chalky. And then her husband comes back and she's like, "See, Daddy, I ate it all," or something like that, in like her sultry voice. And it's like, oh, she does have a little naughty side there.
Which that's great too, like showing just like, excuse me, guys' kind of downfall, and then like as you know, but it's so kind of cartoony at times. Just like they're sitting there,
You're right.
she, Minnie brings over the moose and like, oh, eat it, it's so delightful, and he's just sitting there like a man, like fucking like it's chocolate mousse. He's not delicately like ooh, he's fucking just
He's pounding it, yeah.
shoveling it in his mouth like a fucking idiot. And then she's like, oh, that's good. And then she's like, it has a chalky undertaste. And he's like, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, yeah, no, because they get into like a little fight about it. She's like, no, it doesn't taste very, it tastes weird. And he's like, it tastes fine. Mine tastes fine. Look at me. Look at me eating it. I'm eating it. She's like,
they actually have a legitimate like fight over it. Like, you know, she's like, it has a chalky undertaste, and he's like, you're a fucking bitch.
He doesn't say that, but
she slaved over this moose, and you're gonna sit here and be like, oh, it's chalky. You fucking eat it.
You're right though. Like there are a couple of instances where the film does go into cartoony antics of like, no, you must do this, Rosemary, and Rosemary kind of pushes back. She's like, I don't want to. Like, I don't want to do this. And then like they like come up with some random weird excuse to make her do it. She's like, oh yeah, okay, I guess that makes sense.
Well, the weirdest thing that they always constantly say with like, you know, as she's starting to suspect like there's like this something's going on because she's pregnant and she's already waif as it is, and she's getting gaunt and gray and sickly. And, you know, you got Dr. Saperstein like, oh, this happens. It'll go away in, like, a couple of days. Just keep on keeping on. And, like, after, like, a couple of weeks, he's like, yeah, it's usually what old women happen when they have babies. But,
you've got it, too. Like, you're...
Yeah, you got it, too. Don't worry. And then when Rosemary's like, I think I should get, like, not even saying, like, Saperstein's an idiot or anything. She's like, I think I need to see, like, Dr. Hill. I need to have a second opinion because something's not right. Everyone's like, God, why would you hurt Dr. Saperstein's feelings?
I know.
Why? I mean, you have the best doctor in all of New York City, and you want to see Dr. Hill, but you're seeing Saperstein. What about, like, because, like, you know, she's like, well, I think I just need a second opinion. I'm not saying I'm going to change, but I just need, like, a second opinion. And he's like, what about, and he just, John Cassavetes like, well, what about Saperstein? What about his feelings?
Yeah.
What about, you know, it's like...
Are you sure that you want to hurt his feelings by going to somebody else saying he doesn't know what he's talking about? Yeah, no, it's great, like, because they have to keep coming up with these excuses. And Cassavetes is the one, too. And but I like this, too, because I like the fact that he's starting to get more and more flustered. Because he's not really... Like, he's just been pulled into this coven, right? Because he's basically agreed, like, oh, you'll help me get parts? You'll help blind this guy for me?
I wouldn't say he's pulled, though, because I think, tempted is more, because he succumbs to the temptation. Like they constantly, like, in the first hour, like, oh, what's your husband do? Well, he's an actor. Oh, what was he in? Well, he was in 2 plays, and he's in a bunch of commercials, and then we see the Yamaha commercial where, you know, John Cassavetes is in it, and you're like, oh, you know. And so it's like, oh, he is an actor, but he's not making the kind of money that should make them be in the apartment they're in, but he's an actor. And, you know, we get to kind of see, which is, you know, subtly hinted at, like, kind of his vanity.
Oh, yeah.
At the beginning. Like, it's not played up, because for the most part, he is, you know, pretty fine with the situation and stuff, but it's more, you kind of, like, the undertones of, like, his...
Well, you could see his desire. He wants to do something more. But he says, like, if I have to do Mr. Yamaha forever, okay, I will. But I want something more.
Yeah, but his lack of success is kind of eating at him.
Yeah.
And then, like, that's where we get to see as, like, you know, they make the pact with the coven. He makes the pact with the coven. Everything start, you know, going great for him and his selfishness.
I mean,
but I do think it was kind of like like I said, I wish it was that with and I think Cassavetes does do a great job. I'm not faulting him, but I do wish, because the film is 2.5 hours long. I do wish there was more of a burn to, like, his kind of succumbing to temptation, because his temptation is he succumbed to temptation after the first visit with the Castavets, after, he's saying, I don't want to fucking stay with these old people. They're going to cling on to you and never let go. And then after that one dinner, he's already been, tempted into it. As
that's how easy it is to...
After the dinner, the shitty steak that they microwaved for too long, and Rosemary and Ruth Minnie are sitting there washing the dishes, and the men are out smoking in the lounge, because that's what God wants. After the meal, women cook the meal, they clean the dishes. The men go out for a smoke. But I just, like I said, I'm not saying it's like a critical fault with the film, but I personally would wish to kind of see his fall be a little bit more gradual and take its time. Because we don't get to see her pregnant until like an hour in the film, so I think if you spent more time showing his fall be kind of slower and not succumbing to the temptation right away and slowly working towards that, I think it'd be much more interesting.
Well, I think part of the problem that the film has with doing that is that really it doesn't leave Rosemary's side as the protagonist. Like, it doesn't follow any other person. So it would be hard to show his change, over time meeting with them when it's really focused on Rosemary.
No, I think they could. I think they could, though, because, again, like, we're literally with Rosemary the entire film. But again, like I said, originally he's like, I don't want to fucking go over there. I don't want to deal with them. And then after one time, off screen with that first meal talking to Roman, he's like, yeah, he's really interesting. And then every time they have Rosemary and Guy have an interaction, he's more and more like not on Rosemary's side. He's like, what about the Castavets? Or like, what about Dr. Saperstein? Or so on and so forth. So it's you don't have to show him fall through his eyes. It's just you just have to make it slower. Like, have that transformation, not be like a 180 like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that John Cassavetes has the toughest role because he does have to. He has to act like he has nothing. He knows nothing about what's going on. He's just like, oh, I don't know. Like, just believe the doctors. But then at the same time, he knows, and he has to be constantly in the background, hovering. Like being the stand-in for Rosemary. Like, there's that party that she throws where she's like, I'm throwing a party for all of our old friends. I don't want any of these new people here.
Over 65.
No one over 65.
Because all your friends now are over 65, yeah. John, and this is fucking ridiculous.
She throws the party and has other friends over.
What are they doing, Ryan?
What's that?
What are they doing?
What do you mean, what are they doing?
What are her friends doing? Smoking dope, drink, and they're having a good time.
That's true.
Unholy.
But I really like this scene too because it adds a lot of a nice context. Because we've been getting like this weirdness of falling into this cult, and all of a sudden we're kind of brought back out of it for a second, where we see like, oh, this is how like fairly normal people act. Like, and then they kind of her friends all bring her into this room where they keep Guy out of the room. And they say like, no, women only. You're not allowed in here.
And you look awful. And
yeah, but I like this scene because it adds a lot of context. Because like, whoa, yeah, like weird things are happening, and these, now you kind of get a sense of like these people aren't in on it, and now we know how the people act who are in on it. And I like that a lot, and I also like the fact that this scene brings up that the thing that happens with all pregnant couples and pregnant people is that people constantly feel the need to comment on something about you. Wow, you look great. You look glowing. You're a pregnant lady. Wow, look at your belly.
Can I rub it?
Yeah. There's always so much attention lavished on like the act of having that baby, the baby itself, the present, how you look with the baby, and like in this example, Rosemary's, as you said, is still looking gaunt. So people come in and like, wow, you look terrible. You look absolutely awful. And that's kind of, well, first of all, that's not what you normally would hear, like for a pregnant person. Like, you look glowing, you've got that glow about you. But also at the same time, too, it does bring up the very interesting theme that runs throughout this film, that Rosemary constantly, loses her agency as she's pregnant, and she kind of fades out of being a person. It's less and less about Rosemary. It's more and more about this baby. And even then, in that scene where people are normal, they're not actually Satanists. They're not. They don't have a say in anything that's going on with Rosemary's Baby. They still are lavishing praise on the baby itself and the act of how you look as a pregnant person, not really you as a person. And I think that's really, it's an interesting thing that the movie points out. And, it's not the only time that Rosemary's Baby brings up the fact that, like, Rosemary has very little agency in the whole process, even though we're seeing her as the protagonist. But this scene really showcases, like, what pregnant people go through. Because, like, not everybody's pregnant with a demon baby, right? But and has a apartment full of Satanists hounding them. But everybody does at some point, or most couples that are pregnant do go through this period of time where people are more focused on the baby than the person. And I think it's a kind of an interesting thing that the movie brings up. Which brings us to the point about Roman Polanski directing this movie that is very, very, feminine, that takes a very specific look from the female perspective about pregnancy and the lack of agency that some people have during that pregnancy. This movie was made in 1968, takes place in 65 through 66. It's actually kind of a Christmas movie.
Christmas
time,
yeah.
And yet it still has a really cool theme about the lack of female agency when they're pregnant and having very little say in what they're doing. Because everybody's telling Rosemary what to do, right? Like, if we take this at completely metaphorical value, if we take out the fact that there's a demon baby here, Rosemary doesn't really get a say in what she wants. John Cassavetes tells her, hey, you need to see this doctor. Their neighbors say, you need to do this, do that. The doctor says, hey, you don't like that drink that you're drinking? Drink it anyway. It's disgusting. I don't care. Drink it anyway. And even when Rosemary goes to seek out a second opinion with Dr. Hill and thinks, wow, I've really done a good job here. Dr. Hill, he's such an amazing guy. He's listening to me. He doesn't listen to her, and he calls her husband and her other doctor.
Which, do you know who plays Dr. Hill?
Charles Grodin.
The Charles Grodin. With that delightfully dapper mustache that he's got. Yeah,
he's got a good mustache in this one. Not always the case with Charles Grodin.
Looks like he belongs on the set of Mad Men. It's amazing. Like, in 30 years, you'll be in Beethoven Part 3. You know?
Yeah, you're right, though. It's a nice mustache from Charles Grodin. But how'd you like that? When she goes, she confesses to him. She's like, you know what? People are even if he didn't take it, like, even if he was like, oh wow, some prepartum depression or something going on here. What does he do? He calls her husband, who she specifically said, please don't call. Please don't talk to these people. And he does it anyway.
Do you think he was convinced
that
like he was tempted in some way?
I don't know. I don't know, because you're right though. At the end of that scene where she's leaving, he kind of gives her a weird look, right? Like
he's been tempted into it, like,
But I mean, still at some point though, he did call them, right? So like,
he was. It seemed like he was like kind of like not. He obviously didn't believe her, but he was kind of receptive to like listening to what she had to say. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as he was like, "Who's your obstetrician?" And she's like, "Oh, Dr. Saperstein." And he's like, "The Dr. Saperstein?" Because he's so well respected. He's your OBGYN numero uno. I think the mystery there on whether or not he was an honest actor, or if he was tempted, that is interesting, because I think I'd kind of like to think someone got to him, mm-hmm. and because we get that little scene when she's calling in the phone booth, which what a nod to how society's out of whack. She's in a phone booth with a rotary phone, children. But you got that guy that's, kind of lingering about outside, and we don't know whether or not, he's like a cultist or just waiting to use the goddamn phone. So there's a lot of possibilities to that, whether or not, somebody infiltrated and found out and got to him, or if, he willingly was like, he got the hysteria.
Yeah, I think either way, though, the metaphoric theme here is that, the woman is prone to hysteria, especially during pregnancy. And
talking about prepartum, like, sounds like you got prepartum, which sounds like women hysteria. Just running through the hysterics.
Pretty much, and I like too how John Cass, he's kind of like meets with her after that, and he's like, you can't deny the fact that you were fucking a little bit crazy there. he's like just trying to make it all about how she was nuts. It's just great. I love it that the way that the film kind of tries to spiral to make it seem like Rosemary's going off the deep end. And at a certain point too, like prior to the end of the movie, there is a point where you're like, like, what is really going on here? Is everything as we think it is? And it's like, yeah, it is. There's these people are satanic worshipers, and there's a demon baby. But the film kind of tries to do a little 180 there when the baby, quote unquote, dies. It's like, hey, you were kind of crazy there. You're kind of losing it. I really like that. I like the fact that, like, it keeps bringing that up as, like, this woman is just fucking hysterical, but like in a tongue-in-cheek way, like, because we know as the viewer, like, she's not hysterical. She has, fully tons of reasons why she should be hysterical in this instance. And the film is kind of like the antithesis of what we see in a lot of the 60s and 70s movies, where it's just like, woman, hysterical. Don't know what to do with her. She's just losing her mind sometimes. I don't know.
Just give her a slap or two.
Yeah. It's the antithesis of that. And what do you think about that coming from writer-director Roman Polanski? From the context of later events in Polanski's life. What does that mean for this movie?
It's weird, but I mean, at the same time, we see hypocrisy all the time, so I don't think it's out of really, that big of a deal that he could have, like, a film that he helped, obviously write and direct, have, like, this kind of tone and messaging, and then him be be a skizzy scumbag. That kind of hypocrisy, it doesn't really bother me in that sense, because again, like, it's totally possible, whether or not, like, how the film's shot and kind of like the overall tone and message, whether or not it's genuine from Polanski and other things that his life transpired that affected him. I don't know. I'm not one to say or judge, but like I said, it's not something like that I dwell too much on. Like, because again, like, if that's the case, every time I watch a fucking Miramax film, I'd be like, what was Harvey Weinstein thinking about when, he gave the money for this film?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that it's out of the question that people change over time, and, there was a long period of time before.
Well, the 12-year-old girl or whatever that he raped was like, it was around the same time, I think, so.
Oh, really? Was it?
I don't think it was later, no. It was in the late 60s that he got accused of that.
I mean, I do think it's interesting. I think that there may be some element of, pulling from the actual book. Like how much did Polanski pull from the book versus, infusing into his own, themes here. It is hard to reconcile the fact, but
1977, he was accused and arrested for rape.
Yeah, so it's 9 years later, but it is just an interesting thing in the context of his life that Rosemary's Baby is such a critique of the way that women were treated in their viewpoints, and yet those things happened. It's hard to reconcile with. So I guess other than that, what do you think about the soundtrack? Because the soundtrack is pretty iconic. It has been redone. We talked about this off air, but Phantom Oz, the Mike Patton Band, they did a rendition of the soundtrack. But the soundtrack itself, the La 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 lullaby. What do you think about that? How do you like that?
It's all right.
It actually doesn't show up too often in the movie.
No, it does. I think it's just more nice that we see it in the beginning and then the film kind of comes full circle.
How about the jazz?
Bing! Bing, 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 bing.
Jazz is pretty great in here. There's a couple different scenarios that happens that she puts on a nice smooth jazz record. And then there's the whole scene where she's walking through the city. And it's a great upbeat jazz tune that's going on there. Like it a lot. But I would say that the soundtrack itself is actually pretty absent, and that's on purpose. It's more of a quiet movie.
Works really well.
Yeah.
How'd you like the whole her walking through traffic in a nice little trance?
Yeah, it's good.
Apparently that was shot live. So she literally was walking through traffic on Fifth Avenue, and when they were doing it, she's like, "Aren't I going to get hit?" And Polanski's like, "No one's going to hit a pregnant woman."
Sure. Leave it all up to that. Huh?
Which I again that's the kind of era of why I like 60s and 70s films so much, where it's just so renegade. Just
go ahead and do it.
Yeah, fine. You okay? Who cares?
The scene in the payphone too is really great because that all takes place in one shot.
Long shot, yeah,
Yep.
It's very good. Again, if you were to ask somebody today, even probably from our generation, what she's doing with the payphone, holding it at the receiver, the down to wait for the call, people would be like, "What's she doing? What's she doing?" That was really good. Yeah, there's a lot of really nice little moments, throughout the film that are really good.
Yeah, there are. How do you feel about the ending where she's kind of walks into the cult gathering that they have where the baby's in the crib? It's like a black
with the cross.
Yeah, the upside down cross and a black
veil on the bassinet, and just "Hail Satan!" Everyone's like, "Hail Satan!" It's hilarious.
Well, I like it too because when she comes in and she's got the knife in her hand, and everybody's just kind of looking at her oh, here she comes, this hysterical woman.
It's weird too. I'll give the film props in the fact that they show they don't show her getting her her titty pumped, but they show her pumping out breast milk, and she's like, "What are you gonna do with that?" "Oh yeah, you just gotta throw it out." Gotta throw it out, and then she goes to put a dirty spoon, and they're like, "No, don't do that, don't do that." And she's like, "Why? It's dirty titty milk." And "Yeah, well, might be using that for Satan."
Yeah, I mean the film is actually has a lot of moments where it's kind of surprising what it does and gets away with, the whole scene where the Pope comes to her, right, and says, while she's basically has the devil, pumping away at her, And the Pope's like, no, it's fine. Everything's good. This sort of like this blasphemous scene, I thought was really good.
It was good, but I mean, it's filmed in like that very 60s, 70s way of like, kind of like, I mean, it looks fine, but it's, very like cut and like, the fact that like they show, her Mia Farrow nude for like a couple of seconds, like flashing, and they show, her titties. It's fine, but like at the same time, it's kind of unnecessary. And then like, the whole boat, I don't understand the whole boat imagery of her being on a boat when that's happening. What that's supposed to symbolize. I think it's kind of fine because like what, we see how we kind of see the rape transpire, it's fine and it works, well enough. Cassavetes, especially after that, comes off as like the biggest fucking creep ever, which we didn't even talk about. Like afterwards, because when he's like, "Oh, let's have a baby," let's have a baby because he's tried to have Satan's baby. He's like, "I planned out your menstrual cycle. You'll be the most fertile here, and we'll fuck then. Well, nut in you, and we'll have a baby." And then as she's eating the chocolate mousse, which he knew would make her drowsy, he takes her off to the coven to get raped by the devil. And then afterwards, he's like, because we get to see during that whole rape sequence, like kind of cast whether if Satan was. Do you think Satan was actually having intercourse with her, or if Satan took over Cassavetes to have intercourse with her?
No, I think it was really like a Satan intercourse.
Yeah, so either what regardless of which one of those, whether Cassavetes was, possessed by the devil to dump his seed in her to have the devil's baby, or if it's the devil itself. Afterwards, she wakes up like with scratches and all this other bullshit. She's like, "What happened?" He's like, "Well, I didn't want to miss baby night, so while you were passed out, we fucked." And she's like, "What? You what?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, I didn't want to miss baby night. I mean, what are you being upset about? I was pretty drunk, so
Yeah, not only that, but because the night before too, he was like, it's fine. We got all the time in the world. We can try it again." And then the next day, he's completely like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm sorry. I just cut my nails because I knew you would say something about it." He's like, "Yeah, it was kind of like necrophilia, but no, I got it done." Yeah, no.
I don't know how that played in the 60s, but that definitely doesn't play well today. Like, what? You were passed out, so I decided to go in.
We both had a couple drinks. You were passed out.
You're my wife, so at this point, there's no legal recourse for you. Rape's not a thing, so I just went to.
Yeah, that's a creepy moment for sure. Anything else that we didn't talk about?
I think that would have been like, I mean, I think we do kind of see a little bit of like, her mistrusting him after that.
Sure, of course.
But I definitely think it would have been better to see her kind of more traumatized and not kind of want to interact with Cassavetes after that, because like you more than likely wouldn't be able to trust him. After that. Yeah. And just dismiss it as, well, he's a sex-starved actor looking to be famous. Well, who we didn't talk about? We didn't talk about Hutch at all.
Yeah.
Dr. Zaius. Dr. Zaius. What did you think of this kindly old man, Dr. Zaius, from Planet of the Apes, being like a random friend of some 4-year-old woman?
I don't know. I can kind of believe it. Like, they just have like a family acquaintance or something, and he's now their friend. I
love him. I think he's great. I think he's underutilized.
Feel bad for him.
I think the fact that they shipped him off to the farm that quickly,
goes into a long coma and dies.
Wakes up just long enough to be, "It's a witch. Here's the book," and then
yeah, and it's an anagram. and that's it. Like, he couldn't have said, instead of "it's an anagram," he couldn't have said like Castavet's name is.
No, because these are learned people. He had to be like, no, you must. It's an anagram. Figure it out. And she dumps the Scrabble set out.
Yeah, that was a funny thing too. Is like, would you go directly for Scrabble, or would you just take a pen and paper?
No, I you know what? Scrabble makes sense, especially in the '60s. Like, need to figure this out.
I can't be bothered to go find a pen and paper right now. My Scrabble board, I know, is right over there.
But I like Hutch. I think he's definitely underutilized.
Yeah.
I think Maurice Evans does do a terrific job. Because he smells bullshit right away when he's tennis. He's like, tannis root? What is that? I've never heard of such a herb. Like, it's and then like he.
Yeah, he's on the side.
I would have liked to see him kind of last, throughout the film, kind of, to kind of be like, the angel counterbalance to all the demonry. But at the end of the film, the devil wins, so it's not like it matters. You know
what I really love is Laura Louise, who is like the
sitting there fucking rocking the baby at Mach 12 and.
Yeah,
Rosemary's like, don't do that. You're upsetting him. And she's like, shut the fuck up. What do you know, you whore?
She's clearly jealous of the fact that the demon
wasn't from her.
Is not from her. Yeah, I love her. She walks by and sticks her tongue out.
And then Roman's like, well, she is the mother. She would know. Shut your whore mouth, Laura Louise. No one likes you, you fat bitch. Go eat a donut. Do you like that dour ending, that the fact of the film basically ends, even though Rosemary's giving birth to the son of the devil, and that things are going to be bad, that she succumbs to her womanly instincts and is like, well, I may not like this coven, but it is my child, so let me.
Yeah, I do, and there's a reason for that too. I think if we take Rosemary's Baby as a metaphor, and it doesn't not necessarily that there is a demon baby, but there is a baby that has a problem, right? Like it's a baby that obviously had defects.
Autism. The autism would be like the example today.
Sure.
Like, it's so autistic.
And ultimately you have that baby, and then this movie, the ending is her finally accepting the fact that, yeah, there was something wrong with that baby, but I'm still its mother, and I have to deal with it. And I understand that having raising a devil baby and raising a baby with defects or something like that is a completely different experience. But metaphorically, I do think that has an impact on the film's themes. That it's it does kind of bring up the fact that you had a terrible pregnancy. There was something wrong with the baby, but you're still its mother, and you still have to take care of it. I do like that ending. I think it's one of the only ways that Rosemary can continue to live too, because I don't think that they would just be like, oh, you don't want to care for it. All right, go on and live your life then. There's no problem. Just go live a normal life, as you know that this entire apartment complex is a coven of witches and just brought a demon baby into the world. But I think she's kind of like Guy in that sense, where it's like, I kind of have to go along with it now. Kind of stuck with it. So I do like that ending. We don't know what's going to happen, but she's kind of forced into it. And
we joke about this being like the pro-abortion film, but I mean, it's not anything that ever has ran through her mind throughout it. We even actually hear her say a couple of times that, no, I won't get an abortion. Mm-hmm. As her life's getting sucked out of her, and she's becoming, more and more gaunt.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can see the movie in two different parts. It's, part one of it is, wow, the actual autonomy of the woman in this pregnancy has been sapped from her, and she's not able to make decisions. Men make or groups of people make the decisions for her. And then the second part is that, hey, you sometimes pregnancy's terrible, But yet, you still have a baby, and you still need to care for that baby, and that's your baby.
Yeah, because I mean, like I'm not saying the film has like a pro-abortion stance, but it definitely has a. Because again, like I said, like there's no. I think the film definitely would have benefited from having like Rosemary having like kind of like debating the idea, but we see her throughout be like, no, I want to have the baby, I want to have the baby, I want to have the baby. But again, I think that's also because she's married, she has a family with income. So she's privileged enough to be able to make that decision regardless.
Right, and I think what you're saying decision. I think this is a pro-choice movie. It's allowing her to choose. Do I want to still have this baby? Do I want to have an abortion? I don't think it's a coincidence that they just bring up the fact about abortion. That is certainly something that is intended to be in the script. It wasn't just like a throwaway line or anything about abortion.
No, I don't. Excuse me. I don't think so either. But I think the fact, and it's probably like, you're right, because then again, like the fact that she's throughout the entire film being manipulated by others or men trying to influence her decision, the fact that she makes that choice at the end, it's a pro-choice film. I just wish, in a sense, like it'd be a little bit more ambiguous on like how originally like how she feels, like have her kind of go through like the range of emotions on what to do, because I think the fact that we see the manipulation of people around her and trying to influence what she wants to do and all of that is fine, but I think the fact that she's pro like the whole time that she wants to have the baby, because it hurts. But again, at the same time, I understand, because she comes, as we see through her fucking apartment, she comes from a place of from privilege. She has the ability to make that choice. I don't think Polanski was thinking that too deep into it when making the film, because that probably at the time would have been like, just normal, normal white people problem with money. So it's not, nuanced. It's not as incredibly nuanced as an issue as it could be. I'm not saying it's good or bad for the film or as a detriment. I just think the opportunity to make it a more nuanced take is there. Again, that's why I think if you had Guy, his fall be more slow and on the uptake, would have been much more impactful, because then you could see like he's a starving actor. He can't pay for his wife's the new apartment that they have. They're not making enough money. Can they support this, the child that they want to have? And then thus that leading him to make the decision, like, I'll go with the coven to get these riches to do that. That would make the film much more impactful then. Because throughout the entire film, yeah, he's a struggling actor, but again, the apartment they live in, you would never fucking think that. Like, they live a life of privilege.
Yeah.
I think if you, showed that they were more over their heads when it comes to that, that would make, that kind of argument much stronger and, much deeper than what it actually is.
Yeah. All right, so we gotta rate this movie. So on a scale of 0 to 10, Laura Louise,
Hail Satans.
Laura Louise Hail Satans in her thick, basically like telescope glasses.
Oh, those are beautiful, aren't they?
Yeah. What would you give Rosemary's Baby?
I'll give it an 8.5. It's very good. This is a very good film. It's a great little horror film. I wouldn't even say so much horror. I'd say like, psychological. It's got a lot of just delightful little notes. The slow burn aspect for it works really well. It's well paced. Everyone in it is a delight. Mia Farrow is great in this film. She shows a great array of emotion. John Cassavetes in this is great as well. Kind of seeing him go from 0 to 60 and these nice little subtle ways is very good. Cassavetes are very good. Plot's very good. It's well paced. It's not like, I would say, like a creepy... It's definitely not a creepy horror film or anything like that. It's very much more suspenseful and in the thralls of drama. Because it's, like we said, very much a slow burn. Everything's building up to something. Very good. I like it a lot. Charles Grodin's great as Dr. Hill. Great to see him. With his nice little mustache. Yeah, I like it a lot. 8.5, I'd say. I would definitely say check it out.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would probably give it an 8.5 as well. I think it's a really good movie that we think about it as a horror movie, but the way that it plays out is not necessarily horror. It's actually, like you said, very suspenseful. But it doesn't have like an outright horror feel to it where there are pop-out scares and things like that. It's not scary, really. I mean, it might be scary in the fact that like men are basically dictating Rosemary's life, but it's not traditionally scary. But it is a suspenseful movie, psychologically manipulative, and I think that it does a really good job of showing a feminine perspective of what it's like to be pregnant and not really have a say in what's happening to your body. And I think that also goes along with the fact of what pregnancy is in general, is you lose your agency. You lose the fact that you're in a single person. You actually become two people. You become the baby and yourself. And so you lose that sense of autonomy. And I think the film focuses on that really well and shows just how much people ignore the person that is raising that and creating that baby. Bless you. So I think it does a really good job with that. Jeez, wow. Bless you. I think it does a really good job with that. As long as you can get away from the fact, like, that you think about the context of Polanski directing this movie. But again, I think he does a really good job directing it. It has a lot of great scenes. A lot of, just off-kilter oddness to it as well. I think it all works really well. Everybody does a really great job. Oh my gosh, I didn't interrupt you during your rating. No, but it has a number of great scenes, and I think it's really worth a watch even now, so far in the future. And still has a lot of pro-choice qualities that fit right in with our current debates on abortion.
I don't know what the hell happened.
Wow.
For 4 straight sneezes like this.
Something. All right, so...
it has not done wonders for my back and season.
So what's next on the docket? Are we going to try to do Thor? I don't know.
It's not going to be on Disney Plus unless you want to finally come out of your hole and go to the theater.
I don't really go to the theater. But...
let's do Smokey and the Bandit.
All right. Smokey and the Bandit. It's been one that you wanted to do for a while. What's the occasion that we're doing Smokey and the Bandit?
Just talk about muling.
Just for the fun of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, have you ever seen Smokey and the Bandit?
No.
Why not?
I don't know.
Why not?
Just haven't.
Why not?
Hasn't been on my agenda, I guess.
Why not? You don't want to see a fucking Firebird flying around?
No, I do. I want to see
You don't want to see Sally Field?
I'm interested.
You don't want to hear this? Hold on.
Yeah, really. Very faintly.
I was gonna say you don't want to hear Jerry Reed.
Of course, I'm totally interested. We'll do it. You don't have to convince me anymore.
I'll tell you right now.
Smokey
if we're gonna do Smokey and the Bandit, beer's gonna be Coors Banquet.
There you go.
Because that's what the film's
about. Because
that's
what they're smuggling, right?
Bootlegging Coors across the Mississippi.
Right.
I think up until the mid '80s, you couldn't get Coors across the Mississippi because they didn't pasteurize their beer. So,
yeah, I'm interested. I want to see it.
I think it's a genre of film that you would. How many like just like 70s like trucking films have you seen?
It's a very specific genre. Maybe just Duel.
You haven't seen Convoy?
No.
I'm surprised there's not like a sub-Italian genre of like, Italian trucking films.
There's really no. Not that I can think of. We'll check it out. So Smokey and the Bandit, next up for the show. All right, well, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed our episode on Rosemary's Baby. Hope to see you back for the next episodes. If you want to check us out more, you can subscribe to us. We are on pretty much any podcasting app that you can think of. Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, our home base at anchor.fm. You can subscribe to us on there. Leave us a nice review. That always helps us out. We're on Facebook and Twitter as well. Just search for us, Blood and Black Rum Podcast. You can also write to us at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. We'll take that into consideration. You can also give us any film reviews, films that you would like to see us review, and we'll certainly think about those. And then you can donate to us on our Patreon page, or you can donate to us on our anchor.fm page as well. Either way, we're going to put that money back towards beer, so we appreciate that. Anything you can give our way. And hopefully you'll come back to tune in again for our Smokey and the Bandit episode next time. So until then,
take care.